All right, first time going live.
Apparently, we're live.
Are we?
Yeah, I think so. There we go. We got some people trickling in.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So we're live on YouTube right here, YouTube Live.
Got it.
And then we're live on Instagram right over there. Ooh.
Have we or have you ever met a chef who would know how to do any of this tech stuff?
No, that's why I'm here.
It's the only reason you're here.
Do you remember back in 2020, everybody was doing webinars? Everyone was live?
No, because I'm a chef.
So you didn't do any of these webinars?
I was not important enough. No.
You didn't tune in to any of this?
I didn't tune into any of this. However, I know it was an important time for you because it's where you met the love of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Shout out to Stephanie.
Shout out to Steph.
So we got some people over here on Instagram Live as well. Oh man, I see all sorts
Everyone's
of friends.
saying hi.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
So why are we doing this?
We're doing this because we're starting a web series called Fire the Menu. Very foreign territory to me, but slightly less foreign territory to you.
So we launched a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter nearly 30 days ago.
30 days ago.
So we raised $25,000 in 10 days.
Yeah, that
wasn't it?
fast.
It was 10 days.
Yes, because of our friends here.
Shout out to all of our friends in the community. I didn't even think we were gonna make it.
Yeah.
And
well, we're definitely not that popular.
No, not at all. And I was like, it's not gonna get funded, and we're not gonna have to make a show. And now it got funded so quickly that now we have to make a show.
Have to make a show? What a joy.
We have to make a show now.
We don't have to make a show. We get to make a show. Opportunity.
We get. I don't know.
It's rare. It's rare I wake up with this kind of optimism.
I know. Look at you.
But today's the day.
So now we're at $29,424 with 47 hours to go. And we're trying to get to 30,000 by Saturday, which is when it ends.
47 hours to go.
Yeah.
Because 25K was going to take us to 5 episodes to make 5. But with the 30, we want to add 2 more or 1 more or 2 more episodes, but take it outside of Los Angeles. So then it's travel cost.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to my motherland, Mexico.
Yes. More affordable than my motherland, Japan.
A little too far away. Maybe for season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spring next year.
But the reason why I also wanted to do this live stream was to talk a little bit about what the show is, what we're thinking about, what have we shot so far, and I don't know, maybe have a chance for people out there to get to know us, especially you, since you're in front of the camera.
Can they ask us questions from this or not?
Yeah, definitely go into the chat on YouTube and feel free to chime in, say hello, or on Instagram Live. Ask us any questions or just say hello. We want to hear from you.
As long as you understand how this works, because this is completely confusing to me.
I haven't done a live stream since 2020.
I think, just to cut to the chase, I feel like people want to know why we're working together.
Why are we working together?
That's not the right answer.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted to work with you was because you're a professional chef. You've owned your own restaurant, independent chef, owner in Hollywood. And as soon as I met you, you seemed to be kind of a slightly different type of chef, because I met so many chefs in the span of a little over a decade through Life and Time. I met like every possible personality of a chef.
Right.
And the high-strung chef, the artist chef, the chaotic chef. And then I met you, and it was just like a different type of personality that I really appreciated, because number one, you're also like very entrepreneurial, creative, and you have a lot of ambition to be someone beyond just the confinements of a kitchen and the restaurant. You're curious, right?
I'm curious, but I also think I'm fiercely protective of Culinary or of my kitchen, of my menu, of my food, the way that I work, because if I were to have worked with someone else or had a partner or somebody who could invest in the business, they would have had a say. And I know that sounds really like uncooperative,
Yeah.
but it's just truly having autonomy over my menu was the most important thing because that's my craft. And so, you know, I'd have hiccups over the years of when I started. Bonwy was the name of the restaurant, closed in February. Yeah, February. And we would have people,
Recent.
yeah. So, you know, there's landlords, there's people who are running programs, anyone who would host me within their space. There were so many rules that I would have to abide by. But what was frustrating is I was doing the work.
Right.
And it was my creative endeavor. So why was I having to answer to somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of that was the motivation behind being the owner and the chef.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. The commonality between the two of us when it comes to entrepreneur spirit is there.
Yeah.
But you also know how to do all of this.
I'm the guy behind the camera.
You can make one dish.
Which is what?
Pasta.
I can make a great amatriciana.
That's the one.
I make
It's
an
a pasta.
incredible grilled chicken too.
The chicken tinga?
That too. Actually, I
Okay,
can make
you
three
can do
things.
like three
I can make
things.
3 things.
3 things.
Yeah.
There we go. That's why we did this.
So now that we've got a few more people tuning in, maybe we should introduce ourselves.
Okay. You first?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm Casey Felton, and I am the previous owner to Bonwy, also the chef, from Los Angeles. And now I am taking on a new role as culinary director to Life and Thyme.
And we're starting a show together.
And we're starting a show together. I keep forgetting that part.
And I am Antonio Diaz, the founder of Life and Thyme and the co-creator of Fire the Menu, our new show that we've been crowdfunding on Kickstarter by the people, our community and friends. And the purpose of this little live stream is to talk about the show, go behind the scenes a little bit, what we've shot so far. I already see some questions here. What type of food are you going to cook? Can you share more info on Fire the Menu? BTS funny stories. We've shot 4 episodes.
We've shot 4 episodes here in Los Angeles and in San Francisco.
That's right.
And the type of food we're cooking is, well, I'm not really cooking the food. That's kind of the lovely part for me. I'm tasting the food, which anyone who knows me, they ask me, why did I get into cooking? And I know what the right answer is, and I'm going to give you the wrong answer, which is that I just love to eat. So the ability to create food so that I could eat food and then know other people who love to create food to then feed me is that reason. But we did Flour and Water in San Francisco.
Because it's Flour and Water, a restaurant called Beshram, also in San Francisco. We've shot at Birdie G's here in Los Angeles, Dunsmore, one of our favorite restaurants.
No Technology Cooking.
Yeah, every episode, the way it's structured is basically every episode focuses on a specific restaurant and chef and a technique that the chef is excited about.
Yes.
And you're venturing into these kitchens and basically chopping it up with the chef, bantering from like chef to chef. It's a little bit like master class meets, I like to say actors on actors, but with chefs. And what's different and interesting about this structure is that, number one, you're a professional chef. So our guest chef is not necessarily teaching you because you already know your way around kitchens and you know all the techniques, but you're able to represent the viewers and able to speak the language of the chef. And that's a very unique skill set that I found even just being behind the camera. And also like the way that chefs interact with you is completely different than a chef interacting with like a civilian like myself in the kitchen, right?
We know we can get away with more if it's you.
Yes, exactly. With you, like it's actually it's like legit.
There's a camaraderie in the speak.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so we've done one episode was focused on fermentation.
That was great. That was Birdie G's.
Fermentation and building a larder. Yeah. Dunsmore, an incredible restaurant.
Brian, No Technology Cooking.
Chef Brian Dunsmore. Yeah, he basically cooks with just like this hearth, right? It's all wood fire cooking.
This hearth is literally, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
like it's burning your skin off and you're melting.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's literally like 1500 degrees.
Yes.
Being in that oven. And then in San Francisco, we shot with Flour and Water, which it's been around for I think like 15 years. It's
It's an institution.
It's a pasta institution.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were showing you pasta fatta a mano, handmade pasta.
Handmade pasta.
So it's pretty nerdy. Like the show's pretty nerdy, but it's got like the chefy sort of banter, like the insider jokes, and it's kind of like we're inviting everyone who loves eating, everyone who loves to go into these restaurants and also likes to cook. It's like having insider access to that restaurant.
Well, and
right?
you say as much as I am hosting them, they're actually hosting me. Like that's the beauty of this. These chefs are inviting me into their home, specifically Chef Hina of Besharam in San Francisco. I mean, cooking with her was like being invited into her home, despite it being her restaurant.
Right.
You know, it had that intimacy, that level of intimacy and that personal touch that was really warming and also felt just like a very special moment to be invited into.
Let's talk about that, because her episode was a little different than the other ones because it was more focused on her culture and
her personal narrative, her emotional connection to food from home, and the way in which she's been able to translate that. So she's from Gujarat in India, and it's along the coast. But the most interesting part about the cuisine there is it's mostly vegetarian, despite having access to all that beautiful fish.
Yeah.
And I kept having to remind myself that her food was vegetarian, because there would be moments where I would eat it and I wouldn't miss meat or fish. And there were moments where she was cooking and I was like, God, I would use fish sauce right there. But then the reminder that this is a vegetarian cuisine.
Yeah.
So that to me was really,
she got it immediately too, like the structure of the show, because she even said like, learn the technique and then you could apply it to any ingredient or to any dish.
And that's true just in every kitchen. That's the thing. I think when I started cooking and I was a really young line cook, I thought I could climb the ranks like really fast. I'm that type of personality where I'm like, oh, I get it. I've got the cheat sheet for this. I can figure it out. I've got the cliff notes. I'm not reading the whole book.
Right.
And I was going to become a sous chef like within the first year. That's just not how cooking goes down. Cooking, like any craft, takes a really long time to build the expertise and the understanding, the underlying technique that you can then apply in any restaurant and in any kitchen. So Chef Hina nailed it right on the head.
There's almost like this language, universal language in kitchens. You don't even need to speak English. Like, in a kitchen, you have people from all around the world, and they're able to communicate with each other with this culinary language. Like, can you talk a little bit about that?
The culinary language, I think it comes down to efficiency, cleanliness, respect for others in space, and speed. That's pretty much what it comes down to, at least for me and my understanding of it. Having cooked in a lot of kitchens, depending if you're going super fine dining, there's going to be some adjustments there. But if you're just cooking for cooking's sake, those are kind of the principles that we lean into. I think it also helps that if you have like a fiery temperament, which I clearly do.
Yes, you do. Where did you cut your teeth as far as restaurants?
I started at Providence Restaurant here in Los Angeles, which I did because I had eaten there once. And it was the first time I'd ever had fine dining. It was the first time I'd had French butter with Maldon salt. I mean, it sounds bizarre now, but back then it was like this revelation of like, can we get another round of butter and salt, please?
Wow.
Because it was that good. It was so good. And then when I left culinary school, which I did for 6 months, I staged there for a month, which is working for free, trying to prove yourself, and you hope and pray that they're going to hire you. And they did. They offered me a position to start in their cold garde manger, and I felt so honored. And I was lucky enough to work with some incredible cooks at the time who then blossomed and became very big here in Los Angeles. And one of those chefs went to Red Medicine and asked me if I wanted to join them at Red Medicine. So I worked at Red Medicine for a while. Then I had knee surgery before going to the Tasting Kitchen in Venice. And then
I never had a chance to go to Red Medicine, but this,
I know.
I heard all the stories. Like, this was the most unique restaurant for its time.
It was the industry hotspot because it was open late. So anyone who was cooking elsewhere and wanted to get food and drink, they could go to Red Medicine.
Yeah.
Which stunk for us because if we were in the kitchen, we had to be there till 2 a.m. feeding you all.
Yeah. Shout out to Jordan Kahn.
Yeah, but also shout out to being young.
Yeah.
Because when you're young and you're hungry as a cook, you don't question the hours. You don't question the pay.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like so honored to be participating.
And then why did you decide to open Bon Oui? Like, why go from the confinements of like high-end fine dining restaurant that's like, it's an institution. You have a little bit of that security and that safety, but you're working for another chef, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide to do the complete opposite and be the owner of a small restaurant. Why make that jump? Is that every chef's sort of like trajectory?
I mean, if you're going without investors and if you don't have the notoriety to find investors, then yes. So, you know, like I explained, I'm pretty impatient and I wanted to kickstart my career as quickly as I possibly could.
Yeah.
And so the way to do that was to take it in my own hands. There was a point in my career where no one would give me the job that I wanted. So then I created the job that I wanted. And that was becoming my own boss.
Which was Bon Oui.
Which was Bon Oui.
And for 5 years? Ran for 5 years?
So the brick and mortar ran for 5.5 years. Before that, it was part of Smorgasburg, Los Angeles.
Okay.
And that was 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an enterprise for almost 8 years. Yeah, an 8-year-old baby.
So you recently closed it. It's time to move on. Close that chapter.
And now I'm hooked to you. Which I think
pressure.
No
Jesus.
pressure, but I also think that what's interesting is that you want to tell a story with life and time, and using media to kind of give a refresh to how we look at food media or culinary or restaurant stories, right? Like you wrote a manifesto at the end of last year, basically saying, hey, I've had life and time for how many years?
11.
I'm ready to change the course of where we're headed. Why'd you want to do that?
Because the way that people consume media evolved. It changed. And I think with life and time, it's never going to be finished. It's always going to be adapting to the world that we live in.
Right.
And just like how we change as well. Like our personalities evolve, the way we move through the world evolve, and life and time had to change as well. And we started with like words and the printed word was king for life and time for nearly a decade. Yeah. We had a printed magazine, we had a newspaper, and then yes, we also had a lot of short films and documentaries that we worked with PBS on. But what also changed was social media. Yeah. Social media changed. It wasn't about what you were posting that mattered to you. It was what matters to everyone else. What's the value that you're giving to everybody else? I mean, you remember those days, like in early Instagram, you would just take a photo of like the coffee you're drinking, where you're eating. Yeah. No one gives a shit about that anymore. I think the first photo I had on my Instagram before it got hacked was a peeler, a blue and white polka dot peeler, plastic peeler from my kitchen. That was my first post on Instagram. And it was like riveting.
So yeah, Instagram has really evolved. And so has our ability to tell stories. I'm still pretty shit at Instagram, but that's why I have you. I think what I wanted to really touch on, because we've spoken about Lucky Peach, right? Both of us, because for you, someone in editorial, someone in journalism, someone who is artistic, creative, you love the art, you love the way it was put together. Right. For me, it was the articles, it was reading about the old guard culture of like rebel men mostly, who drank heavy, rock and roll lifestyle, not taking care of themselves, but it was all for the love of cooking. Yeah. Where are we going now? What's next? Because if that's the old guard, if Lucky Peach, let's say, is the model for the old guard, what's the new guard?
And like I loved Lucky Peach too,
I
but
love
also represented like you said, old guard, but also a toxic kitchen culture
Mhm.
that was like the bad boy chef,
Mhm.
the tatted up chef smoking and you know drugged up, and like that world is over, you know. So I think like we're now in a moment of we don't really know what food media is going to look like. I
Yeah.
think we're right now in a transition um, where you have celebrity chefs dominating Netflix and dominating, you know, Amazon and all these big streamers, and then we also kind of removed like the chef's tables of the world. Like there was a
Mhm.
moment where it was like highbrow
Oh my God,
documentaries,
I loved it. The
classical
the slow
music,
motion of the
yeah.
dish.
And
Yeah.
then you know even Myron Kitchen, our show was in a similar model, which was
Mhm.
like high-end cinematic beautiful stories of chefs without a host.
Mhm.
um but really what works right now and people really care about, they want to build a relationship with a character, they want to build a relationship with a host, an influencer. And that's why we're tapping into the world of social media and putting you in front of the camera, because everyone loved Anthony Bourdain, but they didn't really care where he was traveling. They wanted to tune in for Bourdain,
For board, I mean, but that's
right? And
he was
he's always going to be
he
like the
is
gold
God.
standard, and no one can touch him.
No one could touch him.
But I think we also need to move beyond that and stop trying to recreate Bourdain.
Yeah,
I
you
still
can't recreate Bourdain.
no, and
Yeah.
like Bourdain was Bourdain. You know, it's like the chefs that want to recreate the In-N-Out burger. Like
Yeah.
that's In-N-Out. Like just create your own thing.
In-N-Out was the initial smash burger.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like a half-ounce patty.
They just smashed it down. But it's the same thing. So I think with what we're trying to do with Fire the Menu is fund something through the people,
Mhm.
release it on a platform like YouTube, which
Mhm.
you own the IP.
Yeah.
And it's a completely new model where content has become democratized. The way to create content has become democratized.
Yeah.
And it's all based on what value you give to people
Mhm.
and sweat equity and the hustle.
And
right?
also the ability to maintain their attention.
Attention is king right now.
Attention span, because I mean, like I get bored very easily if I'm on
Sure.
watching YouTube or any sort of social media videos. I like those quick. But can we please? I don't know if I'm going to get canceled for this. Can we please? can we please get rid of these videos where it's like you throw down a piece of bread, then you throw down some pastrami on top of it, some sauerkraut, you squeeze a whole bunch of sauce on it, and you slam it, and then you smush it with your hand. Why is that a thing? Because there's nothing about chef culture that is that sloppy and that messy and that
it's the shock factor.
Unthoughtful for food.
It's the shock factor.
Like we put so much thought into our food.
Like that is 100% tapping into like food porn, and it gets likes, but I think it's a trend. I think right that's definitely a trend, and the people that do it, great. I don't think we're gonna there's gonna be something else after that too.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of like the Wild West right now. It's kind of open game for whoever wants to participate.
And I think like with what we're trying to do, which we're still developing our style. We're developing the style of what Fire the Menu is going to be.
Yeah.
And every episode that we shoot, it's a learning experience. We're learning one thing.
But it's also dictated based on who's hosting me in their restaurant, right?
That's right.
Each personality has commonality, of course.
Yeah.
Right. We are all in it for the love of cooking, but also the personal narrative, right, and the way in which we approach food. That's going to shape each episode.
Right.
You can have a formula, right, for the way in which we shoot it, but it really leans heavily on the chef themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the overall mission is to educate.
Right.
It's you going behind the scenes of the minds and kitchens of chefs. Like at the end of the day, that's the log line, right? So let's kind of distill that down in what is it that we're actually trying to tackle? Because there's many things. We're also trying to put the mic and the emphasis back on independent chefs who, like, let's be honest, like they don't have the time to be building an Instagram following or building a social media following because we're in the kitchen working.
We're working and we're using our hands.
Right.
You know, it's not like we've got a third octopus hand that comes out behind us and
Holding
it's
the
like,
phone. I'm gonna live
capture that
stream.
angle.
Though now I want to strap like a phone
Uh-huh.
and live stream a chef cooking like in service.
I feel immediately bad for that chef.
That would be so fun.
I don't know who's going to agree to this, but they deserve more.
These are the dumb ideas.
They
that come
deserve
up
better.
With. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's putting a mic back to chefs, having them teach us how to cook,
Mm-hmm.
or learning like the insider tips from chefs, so we could apply it at home.
Well, and also I think what's important about it is giving marketing to the restaurant and the chef as well. Right.
Yeah.
That's the idea. It should be an asset to their toolkit.
Yeah.
Just like their knives and all the other instruments that we absolutely love using in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to be in someone else's kitchen is really a privilege. And that insider access is something not everyone gets to do. The closest you get, I think, as a diner is like chef's table.
Mm-hmm.
If you get that like coveted chef's table spot,
mm-hmm.
that's where you feel like very included in the
mm-hmm.
moment. But what we're doing is really kind of getting in there.
Yeah.
Which is super fun and very natural to me. So
we have some questions in here in the chat. So are you going to taste other chefs' food?
Xavi, that's the whole point.
That's the only reason why Casey agreed to do this.
She loves to eat. Also, I would love to open a restaurant in Barcelona. Thank you for inviting me. Ojai. We've got Ojai. Casey, come to Ojai. Absolutely. I have been hearing so much about Ojai, about the diversity of food. For me as a business owner, the affordability of rent,
mm-hmm.
all of that. So we will definitely work that into our itinerary, but I think it's Mexico City first. And then I know we were trying to do New York, which I don't even know how we're going to curate that itinerary.
We definitely need to get to New York.
That's going to be rough.
Let's talk a little bit about the chef journey.
Yeah.
And how that's, because you're asking me about how media is sort of like where we're at, how's that changing with chefs. Number one, it's difficult to have a sustainable restaurant in a place like LA.
God.
But what do you think is the trajectory of a chef now? Is it to get the cookbook deals, to be on camera, to get the media gig at, Netflix or whatever, basically like the David Chang celebrity chef route?
Mm-hmm.
Or can you just be a chef of a restaurant and like that's all you do?
Oh gosh, there's like we keep using old guard and new guard, but old guard answer would be that you just are a chef. You are a chef. If you are a chef, you wear so many hats, and it is such a huge responsibility and undertaking that you don't really have like a life outside of that. That is, the traditional understanding of what it is to work in the industry. It's a little bit masochist. That's it's a very singular perspective job, but it's like this badge of honor that you get to wear, right? That this is your life. Obviously, as you get older, like I just turned 40 and I'm so tired. And it's bizarre because when I think back to what I went through to open Bon Oui,
your body has like a ticking clock in a restaurant.
It does, but then there are some chefs that are they're made for it. They're built for it. I remember I worked in this one kitchen. I was surrounded, it's just like the one kitchen in which I was surrounded by women. And these women were like 5'11", and they had broad shoulders, and they pick up a rondeau and they just like move it over like twinkle toes. I mean, it was like nothing to them. And then I'd go over there and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. Ooh. And they're like, do you need some help? I'm like, no, got it. And drop it, because I don't know. I think that there's this, I would have loved to have been able to be one of those chefs, but after 2 years of working really long hours, I had knee surgery, and it was pretty right in that moment. The doctor's like, Casey, you gotta cut this out. You can't keep cooking.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, that's all I knew how to do. So I went right back into it and ignored the doctor's prescription. And now I'm 40 and I'm realizing I would never, ever journey down the road that I went through to get here. Like if anyone's like, would you consider opening like a 2 10 by 10 tents
Mhm.
outside and set up a little electrical kitchen and serve banh mi out of it? Like,
Hell
no!
no.
Who would do that? That's
Yeah.
the dumbest idea of all time. But back then, my ambition was so much greater that
Yeah.
any sort of question of like, man, this really stinks,
Right.
never even occurred to me. It was just about the hustle. It was just about the tempo, the rhythm, getting something going, the addiction to climbing. a
So is the
mountain.
natural progression to become media? For the chef to become
I
the
know
media?
that's what you want me to say. Because you are
You don't-
media.
I am, but I mean, you're in this
For
unique
me,
position
yes.
where it's like a
For
transition,
me, yes.
right?
Not for everyone.
Mhm.
I think that there are other chefs that have really hustled hard and now are getting to a point where they don't have to be in the kitchen because they've built a strong enough staff and following that they can hire really great
And they
chef
license
cuisines,
out
and they
their
license out their
name, their
names.
likeness, their menu
Yes,
to
and they just do
hotels.
recipe development, and then they just become a brand.
Yeah.
God bless those people. I mean, it's not for everyone because I call them the golden children.
Yeah.
Because they've just
Oh, I know a
they've been
few-
chosen. They've been chosen for this.
I've seen chefs that, I mean, we're friends with a lot of
Yeah.
chefs, and they get to that point,
Mhm.
and like it's night and day. It's like they finally had a full night's rest.
Yeah.
They slim down, they're healthy.
They're doing yoga.
You know, it's like seeing like Jeff Bezos, like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like buff and like sunglasses.
He has like hair.
Yeah. And it's refreshing, but it's also kind of sad that you have to put in so much work to get to that point, so much of the grind,
Yeah.
and not many chefs. It's like the percentage of chefs that actually get to that point
Yeah.
where they're cashing in the checks from the hotel groups
Mhm.
and you know they have restaurants around the world now. It's very small, the percentage
Yeah.
of chefs that get to that
It's true.
level.
Yeah.
You know,
So you see a lot of dropouts. You see a lot of people
Burnout.
Yeah, doing other careers, you know,
Mhm.
changing into a different industry. And then you see people like me where I'm luckily enough connected to you in which you saw something. And now I get to try
I'm gonna make you a star.
Oh, Jesus. I hate when you say that.
Also, I love that this looks like we're giving a speech to the UN or something with this thing.
We're not that important, Antonio.
Look at this. Well, these people are important.
They are important, and thank you guys so much for listening to us.
Yeah.
Can you share more info on Fire the Menu, BTS funny stories?
What has it been? Okay, what has it been like for you to be in front of the camera?
When it's just you and maybe one other person, it's comfortable because I'm in my territory, right? The kitchen is familiar zone to me, so I'm immediately put at ease.
Especially when it's also like a guest chef that you're homies with.
Yeah, and
so
if I know the chef
all
already,
homies,
and
yeah.
it always takes, I think, a second for whoever, if I'm not already homies with them, for their guards to drop and realize that I'm not there to criticize, judge, compete. I'm literally there to learn and showcase, right, what they're capable of doing, and that's the best part. But it's not uncomfortable, and I thought it might be. Maybe these live streams are a little harder for me because I feel the pressure of being entertaining at all times. Whereas
in the moment, yeah.
I know I have the safety net of the editing room for you. For you to go in and watch like the really boring moments and then cut it up to make it seem very
snappy,
entertaining
yeah.
for the entirety of the show.
Which is even the most charismatic person on camera, the power of editing makes them look even more charismatic. Like it's that's just the nature of filming. You have hours and hours of footage, and there's a lot of like awkward pauses and just weird things, and you have to just cut it down. But have you been like researching other hosts? Have you been researching like other people, or you're just intuition?
I think it's better to
on the
just
fly?
do intuition, figure it out on the fly, because otherwise those other influences would get into my head and then they'd start having conversations while I'm trying to do this, and that would be really distracting. Because I have a mind like you where it's just like constantly on and the wheels are constantly turning.
Yeah.
So if there was like no voice to this, I literally was just on camera doing this.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a meme. Yeah.
I can't wait to go back and see this in like 5 years, when you
Yeah.
already have like your Netflix special and like you outgrew Life and Time and Me and like you're this big time celebrity chef going all over the place, and then to go back to see this and you're like,
I can't wait for 5 years to do that, and like none of that happened. And to hear you say all that.
I love being the underdog.
I know you do.
Yeah, and that's
But-
what's like. This is why I love this process, because it's like we're both underdogs, rebels, and like trying to make it. And it's that grind, that process of making something that is like chef's kiss, right?
Yeah.
It's that process of making something, the creative that goes into it, and it's the hustle, right? And then once we get there, we're like, all right, we got there. Now let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I'm a little jealous of the hustle and that rhythm that you're talking about because now that I've closed Bon Mi, I feel like I don't have it.
Like you're missing like a mission?
I miss the mission. Yeah. I miss the everyday grind because,
Yeah.
you know, with Bon Mi, it was first coming up with the concept. Then it was getting into Smorgasburg LA, running a successful business at Smorgasburg LA, then taking over the Standard Rooftop, surviving COVID, surviving the writer's strike. It was all of this and then surviving a rent increase at the end of my 5-year lease last June. And now it's over. It was just constant survival mode, which I think speaks to a lot of small restaurant owner chefs here in Los Angeles. It is, everything's bet against you.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted. I know everyone else is exhausted. And so if we can support some of those people on this show.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss, as you would say.
I know. What was that like to like go 100 miles an hour and then it just stops? Because like you're going into restaurant service every day and it's like, yeah, it's the grind, it's the adrenaline. And then that just you feel like quiet, right?
Yeah. And quiet is not something that I think a lot of chefs are always comfortable with, or we absolutely love it because it's something that we rarely get to visit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been hard. It's been a hard transition. You know, now I go on walks, I take care of my dog. I clean the house probably 15 times a day, reorganize the pantry. I mean, it's a busybody existence without a mission. So now the mission needs to be refocused, but it's a territory that I'm very unfamiliar with. So that's kind of where I lean in heavily on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's got to be kind of, I don't know. I think like the way I think about it is production.
Yeah.
Like when you're on set, it's a very similar like adrenaline rush. Like you're in service. Like for us filmmakers, production when you're shooting, that's service for us.
I've seen that from you because when we've finished shooting, you're always just like, oh, I'm exhausted. Let's go get a drink. And in my head, I'm not trying to poo-poo on you, but I'm like, that was nothing compared to a busy service.
Granted, I'm not in front of an oven and like 1,000 degree, you know, whatever, and a chef yelling at me.
Where it literally changed, like your skin color is just like bright red from just standing there for 5 seconds.
I know.
Yeah, it's wild.
But usually you're holding a ton of gear.
You are.
A very expensive gear. And then if you're part of a team, thankfully, and I try to put myself in a position where I only take on gigs where I'm the director, but the director is basically the chef, and you could have very toxic directors that are yelling at you and just going crazy on you.
Which, you know, I would not vibe with. I don't like being yelled at.
No.
Unless I respect you.
Somehow we work well together.
Yeah. We do great together.
Yeah.
I think you always like to say that it's because we're both Aries.
That's right.
We both have fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Aries, Fire the Menu is going to be an Aries baby because it's going to be born. Well, the Kickstarter ends.
Does it end on your birthday?
It ends on the day before my birthday, April 6th, which is Saturday. 47 hours to go. So if you want to get me a birthday present, everyone out there, just go to Kickstarter, toss in a few bucks, and then that would be the best birthday present you could possibly give me.
All right, guys. Well, did we have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Yeah, anybody on the Instagram Live or on YouTube,
Will Knox, I hear you, man. You want banh mi in Ojai so bad.
Yeah.
And I see, how about Hawaii? Hawaii would be great. I would love Hawaii. Which island is the question? Because I love all the islands out there.
Let's do a fire the menu in Hawaii. And I think like the difference also with fire the menu and the way that we're approaching it is it has to be telling a greater story of the environment that these restaurants and these chefs are a part of. Because it's also like there's a lot of social issues involved in the cuisine of different cultures and how we consume. And I think it's important to also touch on that. You know, a restaurant in Mexico City is going to be facing different issues, social issues, than a restaurant in LA. You know, like we've been talking to chefs down there, and there's a shortage of water to its residents.
Yeah.
And to what the restaurants could get.
And tourists are definitely not feeling any of that.
They're not feeling any of that.
They're going to protect that.
Or most of the water is going to, the hotels where tourists are staying at.
Right.
Hawaii is no stranger to,
Hawaii,
issues.
The fires that just happened in Maui.
Yeah.
That's something that I would love to go out there and support in any way that we can.
Or the colonialism. Like, let's talk about that.
The colonial, I mean, we've got so many places to visit when it comes to the colonialism.
Yeah. So it's important for us to not just be focused on American cities like LA or, even New York, to expand out, but beyond that, like, it's also, we're teaching people how to cook.
Yeah.
At home.
Well, hopefully.
Like,
hopefully we're being helpful in that respect.
What are, this is a good question. What are some techniques, some like chef techniques that you're noticing that home cooks could apply at home?
Well, I know that you love this answer, which would be pickles, quick pickles. That's basically a quick pickle. For anyone who doesn't know this, is just using a hot pickling liquid and pouring it directly on top of whatever you're pickling. And within 15 minutes, you will have a delicious pickle. The only thing that can affect that affect the outcome is color. So let's say you do cucumbers, right? You do a quick pickle. The cucumbers are going to change color to be a little bit less vibrant. But if you were to do a cold pickle, which is an overnight pickle, cold vinegar going on top, your pickle will keep this beautiful green color. So these are things that we think about, obviously, because we think about the aesthetic, we think about the texture, and then we think about how badly do we need this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's cool about chefs. Like, they're kind of hacking their way for speed and to get it out immediately.
Yeah.
And that's where home cooks, or people that, know at least their way around a kitchen, and, they're not complete amateurs, but, they know a few things.
Chef, being able to cut quickly with a knife, I would say, is your number one skill set that you need if you want to be an effective home cook. For me, I mean, obviously palate's very important, but I remember when I was starting to cook, I just could not wait to be faster with my knife. I was like, oh, this is so frustrating. This takes me so much longer than it should because my knife skills are so terrible. And then all of a sudden it just comes naturally. You're looking around the room, you're like cutting things, you're talking to your buddy down the line, and that's because you're being able to multitask by doing the most fundamental level of cooking, which is knife skills. Yeah.
What are some of the techniques or dishes or ingredients that you hope to cover in Fire the Menu for future episodes?
Well, we hit on fermentation, we hit on pasta. I think, we did Indian food with Beshram. I would love to dive into Taiwanese food, Korean food. And these are very general statements, Korean food, but the amount of techniques that go into ingredients that we don't necessarily see as like essential pantry items in the American pantry, I want to change that. I want the American pantry to be reflective of the food we have, at least here in Los Angeles, but
Yeah.
also all over the country, because we are a country of immigrants, thank God.
Hmm.
So we have a rainbow of palettes that we can hit on, but there are so many ingredients that are unfamiliar, like Chinese black vinegar and dark soy sauce. And I used white soy sauce just the other day with creme fraiche because it brought out the nuttiness of the flavor of the particular dish. And it's just this delicate nuance.
Every culture has their own version of their condiments,
chili
right?
flakes, and there's just so much to play with. It's kind of this incredible world. It's like being an artist and having all the paints.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about this show. It's like getting access to all of the paints.
I want to do a dumpling episode.
A dumpling episode?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because dumplings across the world.
Yeah.
There's so many types of dumplings.
Yeah. Everyone has like their
Georgian
version of dumplings.
Armenian dumplings, Lebanese, like.
Yeah.
I was just eating some of those the other day.
Chinese dumplings.
Breakfast. If we could do breakfast, Japanese breakfast, Armenian breakfast, Korean breakfast, like all of the different breakfasts, I would love to do that. We had that one breakfast in Mexico going to Puebla, that sandwich.
Oh, it was a torta with pork and
fried pork cutlet poblano.
Yeah, a pepper, and then beans.
It was the beans.
It wasn't beans. It was like a mashed
potato.
Right.
It was mashed potato.
Yeah.
That at like 5 a.m. freezing cold on the highway.
Yeah.
Was the most delicious breakfast. So something within breakfast would be really fun.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
We're getting for Hawaii. We said how about all of Hawaii? Leslie, I hear you. I agree with that. We can just hop from island to island. And international, not just the U.S. Well, we've got Mexico City coming up, so that'll be international. And then depending on how this all goes.
We'll definitely.
Casey loves a poblano. God, I do.
Do you really?
I would like a candle that smells like roasted poblano. Have you? I mean, you know the smell of poblano over the fire.
Yeah, it's incredible.
You're trying to take the skin off of it. That to me, it's like that and gohan.
Since you're trying to find
Japanese
your own
rice.
Yeah. Now that you have so much time outside the restaurant, you should get into candles and have Casey's candles. The poblano.
You said Casey's candles, and I thought Yankee Doodle candles. Where you like walk in and it's just like an assault of the senses. Yeah. Of every smell under the sun. Yeah. Terrible. But yes, I thank you so much for recognizing my love for poblanos. Maybe I gotta take it easy on the poblano, huh?
Yeah.
Pickles and poblanos.
What would be my candle?
Mezcal.
So
just something smoky.
Yeah.
Mezcal and.
Would we get into drinks for part of the menu?
I know that would be a dream come true for you. Let me work on it.
Yeah.
I'll write to Santa.
That sounds like
I'll put it on the wish list.
Very dangerous show.
We normally get into the drinks after we've shot the show.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to, I bet you we could do some bonus
episodes.
Yeah. Of drinks.
Because we do have some like special bonus episodes too.
We do.
We did a live show a few weeks ago.
Yeah. With
Chef Ray Garcia and Wes Avila, two of the most prolific chefs.
I was just sandwiched in between these two presences, which was amazing. Side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're so chill.
They're so relaxed.
That's the thing I'm getting at with these chefs that like have made it.
Yeah, the golden children.
They're so chill now,
Despite running empires.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're so like zen, and I love it. Well, this has been great. If we've got a few more days to the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
But we're already.
No, we only have. Is it a few more days?
Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday was the last day.
Yeah.
We've already surpassed our goal, so the show is being made.
The show is being made.
The show.
Now it's got to go into the editing room.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is where I go into a very dark place.
A dark place.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Exactly. So, what's the timeline on the show? We're looking to launch the first episode, hopefully by the end of May.
The first episode?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the goal is to release an episode every week.
Okay.
On YouTube.
This is news to me, guys. Like, tell me more, Antonio. What is the itinerary for post-production?
I'm gonna have to look back at this video and hate myself.
Yeah.
But I feel like we have to put some sort of cadence,
I'll put
right?
a legal document together.
Please don't. None of this is legal binding.
Soon
by the
I will
way.
be owner to this house.
Yeah. We could only speak as far as our hopes and dreams, but the hope is there's an episode every week.
Yeah.
And we'll do a full like a season, right? And yeah, really hope that people watch it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I don't even know where to look. There's just so many things everywhere. But
Look over there, and then look over there. Say thanks to our friends at YouTube over there.
And thanks to our
And
friends
then to
on
our friends
Instagram.
on
Over
Instagram.
there.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you guys even stopping in because
stopping in, supporting us, even just spreading the word for those that contributed to our Kickstarter. I mean, we're beyond grateful. I mean, this is incredible. Like our friends and our community came together and we were able to raise nearly $30,000 in less than a month.
Pretty incredible.
To make a show that was basically created on the napkin. And we get to do this and share it with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to be the next Golden Children.
God willing.
God willing.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
believe in God.
That's a whole
That's a whole other conversation. All right, y'all.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for tuning
everybody.
in.
We appreciate you.